How's it going, everybody? My name's Chipper and welcome back to another video on Escape from Tarkov. So in today's video, I want to do a solo guide on how to complete the task, the guide. Now this is where you need to survive all 7 maps without dying, but you can do run throughs, but they will not count. So you definitely need to have enough experience by either killing a scav and looting it, or killing a scav from range and potentially looting a few loose items to get the bare minimum requirement to have a successful raid. Now, I will be going over the order of maps that I go through, the reason why I went that way, the routes that I took briefly, as well as highlighting some of the gear that I've been using and what you should be using at the early stages of a wipe, and even now at for patch 12.4, where a lot more players are geared and can potentially pose more of a threat than earlier in the wipe. I first want to dive into some of the gear that I've been using, then we'll go over the different maps, and I'll just do them for order. I will be using some interactive maps too to show you a quick run through. I will try and be as quick as I can, but there is probably going to be a lot of talking when it comes to doing this quest. There's a lot to cover, but I will try and trim it down as best as I can. Alrighty, and first up that I want to talk about is the armors to be wearing. So in the early stages of the wipe, the Gen 4 Assault and the Killer Armor are really good options. I would go with the Killer Armor though if it was me, purely for the fact of it's only 9% movement speed penalty and it's extremely lightweight. Now the Gen 4 Assault's good, it does protect the stomach and arms, however it does come with some significant penalties to movement and it is heavy armor as well, but it is still a good option if that's available. Now, if it's later in the wipe, like in 12.4, a lot of players are running high in ammo and have a lot of gear. You definitely want to be probably running the slick plate carrier at the minimum, because it'll give you the most amount of survivability. Of course, you can run the other options I have mentioned, but this is one item that you really should be investing in to try and survive all 7 raids, because that's the idea. You're going to be surviving with this armor the whole way through. It has extremely good repairability if it does take damage, so you'll be able to keep repairing this and using it the whole way through. It's probably going to be worth the investment, even if it does cost a little bit more than some other armors. If you can, at least run a class 4 helmet. You probably want to run contacts. This is probably one that I wouldn't necessarily run on Alton with. Most high-end ammo are still going to punch through the Alton anyway, so it's entirely up to you. If you feel safer with the Alton, use it. If you prefer the contacts, I would go with that route, because situational awareness is probably going to be more important than just having helmet protection for the random encounter, because you're not trying to get into fights with the Alton, which is the main advantage of that helmet. You're trying to avoid fights and only engage when you need to get the minimum XP requirement. Now weapons, I've got the AS Val here because it's extremely good for maps like labs or factory, especially if you use BP ammo in it, if you can afford it. But SP6 or SSP are still really good options, but M4A1 is probably the best overall gun I'd be recommending, especially if you can load it with M995 rounds. The 60 round capacity, it's silent, it has the ability to fire long range shots at extremely fast velocities with really good accuracy. It is an extremely versatile gun. You can go the HK as well, but I thought the M4A1 definitely does enough. The extra 50 fire rates min-maxing, you can get away with the M4A1. But like I said, if you've got a weapon which you are more confident in using and you can deck out and run really good ammo with, go down that route. If it's an AK, go down the AK, but make sure you're pimping it out, best recoil you can get. And I'll leave a link in the description for some of the best meta guns and builds. I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a spreadsheet out there where a guy keeps updated. Definitely worth creating a favorites for this, because it comes in handy, especially when a new wipe comes around with new attachments. Okay, so the first map I want to start on is Labs. Now, Labs is notorious for hackers, which is the main reason why I start with Labs, but it's also, you've probably got some of the most juiced up guys going Labs, as it's considered one of the endgame maps for PvP. Now, in my opinion, the easiest thing to do is to try and get to the basement level. You're looking at the elevator exfil at the very top. and then obviously you're using the boiler room button to push that. Now don't forget too, the vents exfil as well. You can't take a backpack, or it's an MBSS or smaller. You can then use that exit, because you just need to kill a raider. You don't even need to loot the raider. The raiders are worth enough experience that you can just kill it, get out of the raid, and that's pretty much it. So that's what you're trying to do here. So yeah, the vent extract's really good, but also to the elevator extract as well. You can jump down here from the server room. So you might potentially start off at the warehouse tunnels, run through, and then just drop down into the hole in the server room. And that's the route I ended up taking. I started in the server room, and I actually flicked through to that location there, and then proceeded to then activate the button, kill some raiders, because I activated the button, because that's a big thing too. Hitting a button can spawn raiders. You want to kill at least some raiders and get out as quickly as possible. You don't need to worry about looting. If you can hear players coming, just get out. So smash that button, run through, kill a few scavs down the hallway, and then just bail straight away. And that's pretty much it. The good thing is, if you fail at this, it's not the end of the world. It's the first map. It's mostly just going to be burning some cards, lab cards to get in there. But once you've got it out of the way, it's one of the harder ones to do. Alrighty, now the next map I want to talk about is Reserve. Now you've got a few options on Reserve in terms of extracts. However, I'm probably just going to talk about some of the spawns you can get. So this is why I recommend doing Reserve as the second map, because the PvP spawns can be horrendous. Even if you just look to the left here near the Scav lands extract, you got 1, 2, 3 spawns. So if you do spawn here near the Scav lands extract, you can pretty much keep an eye out for across the field here, as you potentially have 2 PMCs converging on this position here to either get to the mark room safe or to start looting in the buildings nearby. So just be mindful. Also too, experienced players will use the sort of cover around the hill there to just keep out with contacts and then just scouting it out, just so they can maybe catch someone running across the field. So don't fall into that trap, especially if you spawn over here. If you do spawn on this part here, make pretty much your way straight across. You just need to be mindful of the spawns potentially coming up from the cliff descent dome area. Alrighty, so obviously if you spawn near the marked room on the side here, especially if you get the bottom right corner here, you want to make your way as quickly as possible away from the marked room and try and either get into the train station or get around the train station, in my opinion, and get into the fuel tanks. So you can either go either or in order to safeguard yourself, but you want to hit these sort of fuel tanks here. Awesome cover. They allow you to, when you're in here, to then sort of peek over without exposing your PMC completely. And then also too, you can then sort of snipe at the towers and make sure that there's no one's trying to get a quick snipe on someone. Once you're at the tanks here, you're going to mad bolt across to the White Knight building, or I think it's like the repair station or repair hangar. Once you're in there, you pretty much are at a point now where you're just trying to make sure that you can't hear any PMCs. You're going down there and then running through towards where the battery spawn is. I can't remember the name of the key. I think it's the ST key. And then yeah, you're pretty much running towards here to the back, and then you're going to make the mad bolt across towards the sewer manhole. Once you're in this building here, you have the choice to potentially shoot some scavs out this way too, which I highly recommend you do, and then potentially ninjaing their loot, because you're obviously trying to move as quickly as you can through the map. Once you're here, if you do manage to kill a scav, loot them quickly. Hopefully you got a headshot too, which will guarantee you've got enough experience. Then drop your bag and then you can bolt out of the sewer manhole. If you don't feel like risking the sewer manhole because it can be camped, you can run through. Sorry, I might do that again. You can run through here. I would run around the back here behind the vehicle, hug the cliff, and then make your way up the cliff descent using your Red Rebel. So you can use your Red Rebel here. And it's probably an option to be considering, because if you do get one of the spawns at the top of the cliff here, all you just need to do is kill a scav with a headshot and maybe do a bit of odd looting in some of the buildings up there. And then you've probably got more than enough experience to just jump out. Don't forget too, even if you do miss out here from leaving due to lack of experience or you're hurt, it's best to reset and then come back in. Don't be a hero if your arm is busted or your legs and limbs are destroyed and you just don't want to continue. Best to just get out of the raid, reset, and start again. Alrighty, now the next map I want to talk about is Shoreline. Now Shoreline is relatively easy in my opinion. Now as you can see here with the interactive map I'm using, the spawns indicated by the downwards angled arrow is definitely more spread out. There's more options for spawns, so you shouldn't run into too much PvP unlike some of the other maps straight off the bat. But however, it's still a relatively easy one to do. But I end up doing this one next just because it's next in line. There is still a chance of PvP because of the resort in the center of the map, which is very much a hot zone. So we've got a hot zone there and the power station, probably even down here too to the gas station and the lighthouse as well. Definitely the hot spots. So, but you'll be starting on the edge of the map for the most part. I mean, you can get lucky and get the spawn at near the south fence passage, but it's rare. But anyway, let's just say we're going from the bottom right hand corner here where one of the spawns is. We'd be pretty much hugging around the sides. You may want to wait a minute or two just for a lot of the PMCs to move away from this. There's not too much in this corner too, so if you get to that point you can potentially wait a minute or two and then start to move up. Then go from here, obviously being mindful of sounds, and then start to make your way up. Definitely try not to necessarily hug right against the wall. You don't want a silhouette against the wall because that'll make you really stand out, especially from far ranges. So just be a little bit in, as well as using the bushes for cover. Keep going up and then trying to get into position. Now you can potentially use rock passage as a spawn, as an exit, but you will need to obviously shoot something. The only problem is the scavs around this section here have been removed, or don't spawn in all that often. The only option you got is sniper scav, so you'd have to get at least a long range shot, headshot on the sniper scav if you wanted to try and potentially use rock passage without looting anything else. The headshot would be key here. So looting a few things, maybe even causing yourself damage is a way to try and get the experience as well, as in healing yourself. Could be potentially another option as well. But if you don't get it, you probably want to loop around up here as well, using the hill, and try and cut through and actually go further down and use the ramp here. This is probably safer in my opinion than going across, but it's up to you on which way you want to go. You can either go across here too and then cut in and then cross over, but if there is any spawns or any PvP, you're kind of out in the open, whereas I prefer to cut through the forest and then come down through here, and then you can then branch back out again. So it's entirely up to you on which way you want to go here. But then, yep, you're pretty much hugging around the side, and then you're just making your way around the side of the swamp, or the sunken cities, or sunken town I should say, coming down here, and then you're going to be finishing up near the tunnel extract. Obviously too, just bypass the town. Now this area here is really good for your final scavs, so by the time you've probably looped around here, hopefully some of the scavs have spawned around here, but there is a fairly good amount of looting spots, hidden stashes and stuff like that that are available around here. I will leave a link in the description, so if you did want to try and pick up some of the hidden stashes along the way, there is a good chance that you don't even need to kill a scav. Just keep a mindful eye of your experience in the bottom right hand corner, and that might be enough. Now furthermore, if you are doing this the opposite way, it's pretty much the same route that I'd be going. I'd be just doing it in reverse. However, instead you probably want to try and get around, you probably want to cut through, and you'd be coming down this way, and you'll be looking for scavs either at the tower or down here near the docks. That would probably be your best bet to try and get a scav kill. There is hidden stashes along the way as well that you can try and do, but if you're still struggling and you're trying to get out, now this is what I ended up doing. I ended up coming down here to kill a scav and got a scav. I actually used this CCP temporary exit. Alrighty, so the next map we're going to talk about is Interchange. Now, it's relatively easier now to do Interchange in my opinion because of the hole in the fence extract where you just can't take a backpack, which isn't a problem because if you do need to have loot on you can just dump it right before you extract. What I will say though is that the Emacom checkpoint here, the spawns, is relatively open, and this is probably the most riskiest in my opinion that you could be in. It's relatively easy for PMCs to move in and catch players off guard. However, it's also probably the quickest way you could potentially get a scav kill or even a PMC kill and then grab the loot and then jump straight out of the raid. So around here you're going to have scavs and they're going to spawn in relatively quickly too. So you may be able to get a headshot on a scav or kill a scav, grab the loot and then bugger off to a hole in the fence and bang, you're done. Over in a few minutes. So it just depends on how lucky you are, what the situation is with other PMCs as well. Doing this later in the night or on an unpopulated server, if you have that as an option, may be desirable here, and that applies to a lot of these maps that we've been talking about. Now Power Station is another exit that you can use, and I would have recommended this, but with the power button now being located in this location for the other extracts, a lot of players go here to bait players turning on the power button, so it is contested, especially at the moment. So it's just something to just be mindful of. Now that extract's a bit of a shame because if you did get the railroad spawn, railway spawn over here, then the best way was to probably cut through up the top here and head towards the power station. There's a good chance that around this section here you were going to be able to get some scavs, and that would be a quick extract for you as well. So I mean, another way is this either or from both sides. You can just sort of cut down through here, do the long route and go around and then straight to Emacom extract over here. So that's probably the route that I would normally have taken, but unfortunately it's not. It's entirely up to you. It's a very long route. If people are trying to do shooting ball in heaven or long range sniping, they're going to catch you potentially, especially if they're using thermals. But it's definitely an option, and it's worked for me in the past. Alrighty, so the next one I'm going to go through is customs. So customs in the early stages can be relatively easy if you're going geared, but the biggest thing is you do need to realize as the patch goes on, going to customs can actually be a bit dicey. So you may want to buff this up higher in your chain if it is later in the wipe. So if this is considering if it's a couple of months down the track, I guess I'm taking this based on like even Oceanic servers at the moment. There's a lot of geared guys that are running around customs at the moment because it is a relatively condensed choky map that you can run into PvP if you're looking for it. And a lot of that is due to the spawns too, especially around Big Red here on the left. So you can even just see here on how many spawns there are and potential players. So like I said, the biggest thing is that you just need to take your time here. Now, in my opinion, the God spawn would be the one here where you'd be instantly able to just start bolting across and heading through. I would go around this section, being mindful of the trees and trying to not hit as many as you can, or bushes, and trying to cut through and then go through up the top and then straight around and then trying to loop around here and then head straight for the extracts down the bottom here. So you'll be going to the ZB 1011 exit, and that would probably be one of the quicker and safer runs that you could do here. Now, the biggest thing is how quickly you want to do this. If you rush this and try and bolt through, there's a chance that you're going to run into some of the spawns up on the top of the ridge here as well. So just be mindful of sound. Sound cues are really important in customs. It really gives you the upper hand on where players could be. So same again too, I would be going the same route no matter what. So I'd be, if I spawned down here, I'd be still rushing that location and trying to get out of this area as much as humanly possible. Now the same thing's similar if you spawn around here. So if you do spawn around here, your best bet is to try and hook it around, go through the hole in the wall here, and then hang in to the very edge of the map and making your way that way. And this way you're avoiding as much of the PvP at the gas station area around there, or even the sniper hotspot around here. You're also missing the sort of shacks and construction sort of areas around here, and as well as hopefully getting around the dorms. The good thing about the dorms is that you can sort of bypass most of the action, as most people will sort of enter around this side and when they're going in. So it's only the people who get the god spawns around here at the very top who will potentially make it and be traveling along this section here. But then if you go through, and then you're pretty much going through the exact same way. Now you could get smuggler's boat extract, which will be amazing if you do, but don't forget too, you're going to need to get scav kills. So if you're coming this way, around here is really good for scav kills. Also too, the sniper, if you're coming the opposite way, around here is really good, and you can even get scav kills around here. So once you're around these sections, it's a little bit easier. If you did need a scav kill, that's probably going to be an easy one. It can also happen in patrol around here as well. But if you're not having any luck, you may just have to bite the bullet, cross over the bridge, and then head towards Crossroads. And then before going using Crossroads, you're looking around this section here. Hopefully by then some scavs are spawned in, and you can easily get a scav or two, grab their loot, and then you're out the door. Alrighty, now the next map is going to be Woods. Now, Woods can be relatively easy in my opinion, as long as you're patient and being observant. And there's even more options now to get out of Woods with the cliff descent with the Red Rebel, or even using the car extract as well. So it just depends on which spawn you get and which route you want to take. However, range is key here, trying to get some scav kills. Ideally trying to get maybe 2 scav kills is good, rather than killing 1 scav and running out in the open to try and loot them, especially in areas like over here or even in the lumber mill as well. You can kill scavs, but getting that loot is going to be tricky without getting killed. Now, if you did start, say, at the UN roadblock, you've got 2 choices, and this goes for both ways. You're pretty much either going to follow down the road, being mindful of PvP here, hitting the rocks, and then making your way down here to the next set of rocks. And then this is probably where an SJ6 is going to become real handy. You want to keep sprinting across here with as much stamina as you can possibly have. Go around here. Now, if you need to rest and chill out, the enough bushes around this section here, that is really good if you just want to chill out, especially if you're hearing gunfire around this section. You just want it to calm down a little bit. Now, you can kill some scavs around here, and around this section here is probably going to be really good for killing scavs. 1 or 2 of them, looting them or killing 2, and then jumping pretty much straight out to the outskirts. Now, the opposite can happen if you pretty much go the other way. So if you go from UN, going around the edge here, now you can potentially kill a scav right down here. And then loot them, and then you can pretty much from that location go straight to the cliff descent, which would make this a really lucky spawn and quick way of completing this map. If you don't have the red rebel, you can use the south V exit. Otherwise, I would be hugging around the sides and then proceeding to go down, and then potentially using ZB014. You can use the rocks here. Now, if I was to go the opposite way, say spawning around the scav hut and then coming back the opposite way of what I've drawn, I actually end up using the sniper rock. In hindsight, that was probably a really bad move to do. If an experienced player saw me up there, there's a good chance he could have shredded me quite easy, especially in the position I was in. But it does give you easy access over the lumber mill to try and pick a scav or two off relatively quickly. So do that at your own risk. In my opinion, don't go there like I did in the video. Definitely head down and try and get around ZB016 here. Kill a scav around there or even around the old station. And I think that will go a long way in trying to complete this safer and potentially even quicker as well. Alrighty, now the next map is going to be Factory. Now, I left Factory pretty much to my last one. I'm relatively confident on Factory. I've been playing this map from like 0.4 days. I know this map inside and out. As long as you're taking gear in a gun that shreds with fast fire rate, there's not much that can really stop you here. However, later in the wipe, obviously in 12.4 at the moment, people are quite geared, so you may run into some pretty geared guys in Factory. But when I did this in 12.1, there wasn't really too much. A lot of hatching runners, or people just running very basic gear to get their pistol kills, etc. Or just level 3 with a face shield. So if you're taking class 5 with a decent face shield, and then like an AS Val, or VSS, or just the M4 that I mentioned, you should have no problems surviving this encounter. Scavs are relatively easy as well to come across too, so I'm not really going to talk too much about it. I think if you've done Factory a few times, you kind of know where the scavs are going to spawn. My biggest thing is obviously to try and avoid as little combat as possible, and just get the scav kills rather than the PMC kills. So let's just say we're starting at gate 0 over here. Definitely hit down and go underground. Once you're underground, you're pretty much going through the bottom, then you're hitting to where the 3 boilers are on the center of the map, using those boilers to then keep going underground. Once you're going through underground too, you keep pretty much following through here, and then you're going to be following it all the way down to pretty much one of the exits, and hopefully you've been able to kill a scav or two. However, you may need to pop up to even up here to potentially fire on some of the scavs out here. It just depends on whether or not you come across some easy enough scavs. This is probably the easiest way. Obviously have a factory key when you're doing this, and then going from there, but that's probably the way that I would try and attack this quest. Now if you did get the spawn here, you're kind of limited on options. You can potentially bolt through around here as well and try and just jump over the barbed wire fence. Sorry, it's probably more around there, and then try and jump in here, but just be mindful of the other people that can potentially spawn in the tunnels as well, as they may be coming around this section. Just be mindful that audio cues. Factory is really easy to track people. Make sure you try and be as familiar as yourself with certain audible cues. People walking on glass and things like that will help a long way on this map. But other than that, I found it relatively straightforward, especially if you get the spawn near the forklifts up the top corner here. If you get up here, you can pretty much just camp angles watch for the spawn down the hallway here or even down this way, and then you can potentially just get an easy kill, grab their loot, and then you're out of the raid with the quick extracts with the key. And once you've completed factory, guys, that's it. Hand it in, accept your ridiculous XP/USD reward, and you've completed the guide task. Now, I know this is probably a little bit different to some of my other videos that I've done, and it's a bit of a mishmash. It's pretty hard to sort of talk about it and give guides and then show some footage. But I definitely wanted to get this guide out there for someone who definitely wants to have a crack at this solo rather than relying on others. It can be done, and hopefully I've given you enough information to sort of guide you through the process, and then hopefully being able to smash this out even just in one night. So obviously, one thing I do want to mention while recording this, customs expansion is potentially coming relatively soon in a patch or two. So that is going to be around the construction yard. It'll depend on how that plays out, but that may be another route to take that may be not as PvP intensive as going past the dorm. So something to just be mindful of too. But anyway, guys, look, I really appreciate if you made it to the end of this video. If you've got something from this video, please leave a like. If you have any follow-up questions or advice that I didn't really touch on here, please leave a comment down below. I'll try and pin any of them that are relevant. And also too, guys, if you're new to the channel and want to see content like this, please smash that subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to me. And more importantly, until next time, I'll see you back out there.